best in radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
We are back on the Financial Survival Network. It's Kerry Lutz, and it's time for another Triple Lutz Report. This is episode 353. The date is May 14th, 2014. Amazing things going on. This is from Michigan Capital Confidential. Would you believe that Michigan, that bastion of unionization, has climbed to 12th place in economic outlook rankings? The Mackinac Center for Public Policy Analysis have pointed out that the Great Lakes state ranked at the bottom of a number of economic measures and indicators. And in the last couple of years, though, there has been far more good news to report than there used to be. ALEC, which we quote from extensively, that's the American Legislative Exchange Council. It publishes Rich States, Poor States Review, which consistently ranks my former home state, the People's Republic of New York, dead last. It's been doing this for 7 years now. It's now ranking Michigan number 12, and a lot of that's got to do with the state's right-to-work law, which Rick Snyder, who's the governor, reluctantly passed it. But it's made a big difference. In 2009, Michigan's rank hit an all-time low of 34th. Last year, it was 20th. It just shows that when states start taking good economic measures, they can go up. But you have to understand that everything is relative here. I think Michigan came ahead of my new home state of Florida. Florida doesn't have an income tax. Florida is definitely a more positive economic climate than Michigan. I mean, Michigan has Detroit, let's face it. But nonetheless, Michigan is moving up. So look, going back to New York, Moody's issued a warning for the DeBlasio budget. This was in the Post, the New York Post, a couple days ago, that DeBlasio's new $73.9 billion budget would increase the city's deficits in future years. They said budget was credit negative because higher labor costs tied to recently settled teachers' contracts would boost the deficit by more than $5 billion between 2016 and 18. A City Hall spokeswoman emphasized that there had been no change in the city's credit rating whatsoever. In a separate move, city officials shifted $725 million in funding reserved for the teacher's contract into the current fiscal year. So they were expecting that they were going to have to pay somewhat more. But, Comrade DeBlasio, exactly what I said, he's going to up labor costs. The way they're going to pay for it is they're going to take money out of the capital budget. New York City is going to start crumbling again. You can see it. And this hard winter that they just went through is going to speed up deterioration of the city's capital plant. The money is going to have to come from someplace to pay for all of these overpriced, do-nothing public school teachers. Yes, I'm talking to you. You're a bunch of ideologues. You're indoctrinators. That's what you do. Not all of you, but remember, we were talking about PS 106, Marcella Sills. There's hundreds of Marcella Sills, thousands of Marcella Sills out there doing your dastardly deeds, indoctrinating our mushy-headed little kids. And speaking of Comrade DeBlasio, well, a new poll came out and about his jihad against horse-drawn carriages. The voters are really not happy about it. 24% of registered voters said they would be more likely to vote against him. 15% they'd be more inclined to back him. And there's bigger spread among likely voters. 31% said a ban would make them less likely, less inclined to support him for re-election. 11% said it would sway them his way. So it's a 20% gap between likely voters. And you know that this is all a big real estate play to grab the stables where the horses, where many of the horses are currently housed, and use it for mixed use condos and commercial real estate. And it's in the 50s on the west side, an up and coming area, and that's what this is all about. And hopefully he'll pay the ultimate price. Hopefully, they were talking recently about giving these operators of the horse-drawn carriages taxi medallions. That leaked out, and they said, oh, no, we weren't doing that. Those are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars now. They're going to have to pay them something because really they're trying to breach their contract. But let's see what happens. It ain't over till it's over, as Yogi Berra once said. It was a cool article. This is just on the trivial, general, useless knowledge. I'm the master of useless knowledge. But in 2004, UPS announced a policy for drivers. The right way to get it to any destination was to avoid left-hand turns, even if it means following this route that a UPS driver described to an incredulous press member. We're going to make a right turn onto 135th to Western. We'll make another right turn onto Western down to 139th Street, and a right turn onto 139th Street down to the end of the block, and we'll make another right turn. So this reminded me of my late grandmother, who was a phobic driver, to say the least. I mean, the woman, she really should have been off the road many years before she finally went, but she was afraid to make a left-hand turn into oncoming traffic one time, and she would go miles out of the way to avoid it. I remember she lived in Elizabeth, New Jersey. My parents lived in Essex County, New Jersey, and to make a left turn, she could cut 5 miles out of her drive, but she wouldn't do it because she was so scared. Finally, one day, I implored her to make the left turn. Of course, her bad judgment took over. She almost got into an accident, and to her, that was proof that left-hand turns were really potentially hazardous, even fatal to one's health, and she would never do it again unless she absolutely had to. And basically, when you think about it, that 3 right turns equal 1 left-hand turn, and I guess 3 left-hand turns equal 1 right-hand turn. But what UPS says here, that when better tracking systems emerged in 2001, the package delivery service took a closer look at how trucks performed when delivering packages. And as a logistics company with some 96,000 trucks and several hundred aircraft, hopefully the aircraft make left and right turns, much of their business could be distilled to a series of optimization problems around reducing the amount of fuel used, saving time, and using space more efficiently. And if you ever saw trucks in a UPS facility, they park just a few inches apart with their side mirrors overlapping to save space. And the UPS engineers found that left-hand turns were a major drag on efficiency. Turning against traffic resulted in longer waits in left-hand turn lanes that wasted time and fuel, and it also led to a disproportionate number of accidents. See that, Grandma? You were right. By mapping out routes that involved a series of right-hand loops, UPS improved profits and safety while touting their catchy, environmentally friendly policy. And as of 2012, the right turn rule, combined with other improvements for the wow factor, UPS doesn't separate them out, saved around 10 million gallons of gas and reduced emissions by the equivalent of taking 5,300 cars off the road for a year, which is kind of cool. And describing the policy in a speech, the CEO of UPS told his audience, I can see a few of you smiling out there, and I know what you may be thinking, but it really works. And if you don't believe it, well, that's why Mythbusters exists. And the program sent a truck out to deliver packages following a normal route and a left-turn hating UPS route. And they found the UPS saved gas, but it took a little longer. And what's interesting is that Mythbusters likely failed to save time on the route by following the rule even more stringently than UPS, because while the no left turn rule has an appealingly simple and algorithmic quality to it, you will see UPS drivers take left turns on occasion, especially in residential neighborhoods when there isn't much oncoming traffic. And asked how often UPS drivers turn right, a driver told ABC, a guesstimate, I would probably say 90%. I mean, we really hate left turns at UPS. And since UPS uses software to map out routes, it can send drivers on right turn heavy routes while making exceptions when a left turn is easier and faster. And as an amicable senior VP of the company said in an interview about the rule, that's why I love the engineers. They just love to continue to figure out how to make it better. And, you know, it just shows you're better off being to the right than to the left in so many areas of your life, not the least politically. Just kidding, just kidding. You know that we're libertarians here. We don't subscribe to right or left as a paradigm for political thought. And we will return on the Financial Survival Network with more things that you need to be thinking about.
FSN Radio.
Warning, you might live in a no-constitution zone. It's the shocking story you won't see on TV. Depending upon where you live in the United States, you may no longer have constitutional rights. Politicians are quietly squeezing the middle class to micromanage you and extract your wealth. Want to see how? Watch the free video at noconstitutionzone.com. Soon, you'll have the last laugh by using these cultural contraband tricks and profit like a king. That's noconstitutionzone.com.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
We are back. Hey, and don't forget, our sponsor, formerly known as Owings Metals, is now Borderless Holdings. Don't forget wearable wealth. It is the coolest thing. You got a lot of different choices when it comes down to it, but this stuff is really durable. 24 karat gold beads on sterling silver cables, holds together, not going to break apart like a lot of 22 karat gold jewelry. Some of it comes from India and other lesser developed countries. This stuff holds together. You can sell off the beads as needed. As long as you're wearing the jewelry, you can travel to any country in the world just about. Be careful, though. You don't want to be too ostentatious with your wearable wealth, no matter what country you're in and no matter how safe it is. But wearable wealth is your passport to transporting your wealth to any country in the world. Call them up now. Borderless Holdings, formerly known as Owings Metals, 855-604-6343, 855-604-6343. Tell them Kerry sent you. You can also go to borderlessholdings.com. Great selection. And they've got all the traditional bullion products too. And this month they've got a special free shipping. Just call them now, 855-604-6343. So here's one under the no good deed shall go unpunished section. You know, getting your local government to do anything. You know what that's like. Forget about it, right? They're useless. So in Tacoma, Washington, they tried to get the stupid city to paint crosswalks on reputedly hazardous streets. And this came from the libertarianrepublic.com. Group of anonymous Tacoma residents, including some city employees, took the matter into their own hands. They painted crosswalks themselves. The group calls itself Citizens for a Safer Tacoma, and Tacoma's city government is determined to crack down on its rogue crosswalks and prosecute anyone caught painting them. The city spends up to $1,000 removing each illegal crosswalk. Incidentally, this is also the price of painting a legal crosswalk. So why bother removing the crosswalks, you might ask? And why didn't the city just paint the damn crosswalk in the first place? Because, says Tacoma's interim public works director, city crosswalks must comply with federal guidelines related to sight, distance, traffic volume, and street width, because Uncle Sam has got his nose in everybody's freaking business. Libertarians often object to the fact that local governments are given little power to manage their own internal affairs. Well, haven't I said it? Haven't you heard me say it? How many times? And Tacoma's crosswalk crackdown is a timely illustration of just how severe the problem is. Cities are not even in charge of spray painting their own crosswalks. We're not asking for major infrastructure changes, says a spokesman for Citizens for a Safer Tacoma. All we're asking for is a little bit of paint. And here's another guy who, he's in Canada. You know how messed up that place is. I mean, Canada. And sorry, Stefan, our webmaster. I mean, your country is messed up. They don't even have a Second Amendment. So, but enough said. So a St. John NB man, I guess that's New Brunswick, has reached local hero status after a blown tire led to a blowout with the city because the auto body shop owner decided to fix potholes on his street only to be told to undo the work or face a fine. 3 weeks ago, and this is in National Post, which is their whatever, some kind of Canadian publication, newspaper. So Mike DeBlasio, he blew out a tire after hitting a foot-deep pothole on Broadway Avenue at Simpson Drive, which is in St. John, where he owns an auto body shop. The next day, while working outside his shop, he watched a hearse trying to navigate the pothole on the way to a funeral, and the 60-year-old decided to take matters into his own hands. Enough is enough. Between me blowing a tire and having to watch a hearse do that, I took my little Kubota tractor and took some fill from my yard and poured it into the hole, he told the Post. I spent all morning and about 3.5 hours, I filled in numerous potholes. And from the way DeBlasio describes the potholes, they weren't just run-of-the-mill road ruiners. They were Gotham City-sized supervillains. I guess that's a reference to New York City, which we had some huge potholes there. Some of them were 10 to 12 inches wide and a foot deep and 2 feet long, he said. I just drew the line and filled them in. I didn't think I was doing anything wrong, but obviously no good deed shall go unpunished. The city down here thinks I was. And the city says that this might be a case where the cure is worse than the disease, as it began receiving complaints about the gravel used by DeBlasio, which was too large and could damage cars. Can't believe it could have damaged cars worse than the potholes themselves, but they started really getting on this guy's back. You better remove these remove this gravel. They said, or they were going to fine him. And he wound up having to go hire a contractor to do it. It cost him all sorts of money. And finally, the city said that they got so many complaints and such an outpouring of support for this guy that they finally prioritized the potholes, which they normally do depending on how well used the roads are. And his section, of course, falls into the lowest priority category, unless, of course, you get the flat tire there. And they will fix these potholes as quickly as they can. Thank you very much. And, this is why you can't fight City Hall and you're just supposed to get a flat tire, right? And remember, why you listen to the Financial Survival Network, because we are on the cutting edge. If you remember, published newsletter last month called Operation Dirty Money. The fact is, they want you to stop carrying cash. They want you to carry credit cards, debit cards, anything possible so that they can track your spending, so they know what you're doing, so you're going to be a good person and comply and do everything that you're told. And here we are. I hate to quote from this website because I don't trust anything that they say. So it's from America aljazeera.com, but the survey results were on bankrate.com. So we can go over to bankrate.com, and it says, and this is by Allison Ross. We should probably have her on the show. And yet another sign that cash's cachet may be waning. A new Bankrate survey found that 2 out of 5 consumers carry less than $20 in cash on a daily basis. Bankrate's May Financial Security Index suggests that the good old greenback, the traditional currency for many consumers, certainly many consumers in the United States, and in, well, you know where, no longer dominates like it used to. The pockets of many Americans are now cramped with a bevy of alternatives such as debit cards, credit cards, and smartphones with electronic payment apps. I use it all the time at Starbucks, I have to admit. While cash isn't going away anytime soon, don't you be so sure, Allison. They have plans for your cash. Experts say the role it plays in the marketplace may change in an increasingly wired world. And you know this is happening. They're talking about the electronics payment industry, which is doing a great job in shifting people away from cash. And you see this happening everywhere because they don't want you using cash anymore. When you can tip your barista at Starbucks by pushing a button on your smartphone rather than having to dig into your pocket with cash, pretty soon you'll be paying the babysitter, all sorts of people you'll be paying with electronic payments instead of cash. This is what's happening. And it's interesting because peeking into wallets, as they say, consumers who open their wallet to Bankrate's review weren't carrying much in the way of paper money. Probably the people who were carrying money told them to take a hike or take a flying leap through the hole of a donut. So here's the results of the survey. I'm just going to briefly read them. 40% carried less than $20. 29% carried between $20 and $50. 12% between $50 and $100. 5% between $100 to $250. 2% more than $250. 9% doesn't carry any cash or does not apply. 2% don't know, refused. Tell me how much cash you carry on a daily basis. Don't tell me your name. KHL@KerryLutz.com. KHL@KerryLutz.com. Don't forget, follow us on Twitter @KerryLutz, Facebook, Financial Survival Network. Subscribe to us on iTunes. If you're tired of going to the website or you want to just get it on your iPhone, we're there. Just go iTunes, Store, Financial Survival Network. You can subscribe. You'll get every single episode. You'll never have to miss another one. I know that's very important to you. And, just keep following us and go to Financial Survival Network. If you missed yesterday's newsletter on the rebuilding of the World Trade Center, you really need to check that out. Quite proud of it. Luckily, hat tip to my sister Harley for being the great proofreader and grammarian, I think that's the right word, that she is, because when it comes to grammar, I'm a little lacking. It's been another Triple Lutz Report. It's Kerry Lutz signing off.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to FinancialSurvivalNetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.